ذلك بأنه كانت تأتيهم رسلهم بالبينات فقالوا أبشر يهدوننا فكفروا وتولوا واستغنى الله والله غني حميد. Continuing Surah At-Taghabun. In Surah At-Taghabun, we completed the first 4 ayat last week, and we mentioned how the ayat connect to the name of the surah, which comes towards the meaning of the day of the resurrection, which Allah Azza wa Jalla has named as Yawm At-Taghabun, the day in which people will have either mutual gain or loss. And Allah Azza wa Jalla, in the beginning of the surah, speaks about His creation, and that as He wishes from His people, even it's at the end of the day by His will that فَمِنْكُمْ kafir, as it comes in the ayah, that from you is disbeliever and from you is believer, and Allah is all seeing of things, and that the creation of these skies and the earth and the human being and how the human being has been fashioned and the return of everything to Allah, this is all a manifestation of the utmost power and the great power and majesty of Allah Azza wa Jal. When the past few days ago, I was with some youth and we were reading through one of the books of Imam Zayd Sharief, and in there he talks about the principles that we must know, and it's very important actually, principles of how we must understand, how we know Allah Azza wa Jal. And one of them is the principle of taqdees, which is the transcendence which we ascribe to Allah Azza wa Jal, of His being beyond anything and everything that we could assume or imagine. And so in there, one of the kids, he asked, so, the discussion of Allah's throne comes in there, etc., other things. So then, so then aren't there, we always assume that, there's angels carrying the throne, and that, above the throne, is Allah's majesty, and as it befits Him. But then, the book explains it. But the point being that, even the angels carrying the throne, as Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi says, that they're not carrying the throne because they're able to, rather because they depend on Allah, right? And because they have no choice but to do that, they do that, and their ability to do that is only by Allah as well, right? So even the throne being carried by the angels, who's from there, as it comes in reports that Ibn Abbas says, for example, that the journey between the shoulder to the earlobe of an angel is 500 years, that the Hamalatul Arsh, those that carry the throne. But even that, what they're doing is rather their dependence on Allah, right? And because Allah Azza wa Jalla wants them to carry it. So all of these things we see in the heavens and the earth is simply to point towards the never-ending majesty and greatness of Allah Azza wa Jalla. And Allah Azza wa Jalla wants us to recognize this to the degree that, when something is so superior to you, so overwhelming to you, you accept it without question, right? So the next ayah which we're starting off today, Allah Azza wa Jalla says that He knows all that is in the heavens and the earth. يَعْلَمُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. And many a times, Allah Azza wa Jal uses the plural of skies versus singular of the earth. The reason being to point to something which is that you see the earth to be great. Just for you to travel from one space to the other, how much time it takes, right? How much effort is needed in that? How much finances go into that? Just for you to travel, risk of life goes into just for you to travel from one place to another. How many places you're unaware of, you don't know of, right? Like the caves that you look at the mountain and it looks like there's nothing there, but then when you explore, you find caves within which there's so much room, so much, you know, space, so much earth. So Allah Azza wa Jal, He uses plural of skies though, for us to, understand that this earth is nothing compared to now the skies, right? And you know that even the first sky, which is Sama'ud Dunya, which we look with our eyes and we see, right? This is Sama'ud Dunya. That compared to the second sky is like, a ring in the desert, a sand particle in the desert, right? So Allah Azza wa Jal says He knows all that is in the heavens and the earth. And there's other ayat which Allah Azza wa Jal has even said, and He knows what's in you as well, right? Knows. So not just, all the tangible things, but even the things, right? As the ayah finishes, the ayah concludes with, Wallahu alimun bidhat sudur. That Allah is all knowing of what is kept within the chests. That there isn't even a thought which passes by a thought, right? Now a thought is an imagination. This doesn't even have a reality yet. And even that Allah Azza wa Jal knows it, the magnitude of Allah's knowledge. And as I mentioned last week, that the shaitan wants a person, and this different ahadith point to this and tell us about this, right? That the shaitan wants a person to, wander into strange questions, and that you waste your time in the questions. How does Allah know this? And how is it like this? And how is it? Questions that are beyond our comprehension. But the shaitan wants the people to wander in those things so that they don't actually pay attention to what is their responsibility. That, okay, if Allah knows everything now, in face of that, what is my responsibility? What am I supposed to be doing? If Allah knows everything what I'm doing, and sees everything that I'm doing, that I should be extremely cautious, extremely fearful. Right? وَيَعْلَمُ مَا تُسِرُّونَ وَمَا تُعْلِنُونَ. And He knows well all that you conceal, وَمَا تُعْلِنُونَ, and all that you reveal. One of the Sahaba was asked, what is the ayah that strikes most fear in his heart? And he said, the ayah in which Allah Azza wa Jal says that He knows خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ, that even when the eye blinks with deception. So even if an eye looks towards a direction, committing a sin or for a wrong reason, خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ وَمَا تُخْفِي الصُّدُورِ, and what the chests hide, Allah sees and knows everything, and it will all be brought out on the day of resurrection. So this ayah, it humbles a person, right? Because this surah is about believers humbling themselves to the will of Allah Azza wa Jal, so that they do not incur loss like the people of the past who didn't do so. And the next ayat will point to that. So a person humbles himself when they know that there's so much out there that we do not know. There's so much out there, right? So much of the earth that is always still being discovered. So much of the earth on land, what we're still learning about, what we don't know. Right? And so this should teach a person to humble themselves, right? That there's so much we do not know. And in this there is which the next ayat will point towards, but there is you can say a benefit that the believers have, or you can say that there's a strength that the believers have, that the believers do know more than other people, right? So no one will tell you what happens after death. The believer will tell you with iman, conviction, as if they can see it, exactly what will happen after death. That can only be accessed through what? Through wahy, through revelation. Right? So Allah knows all that is in the skies and the heavens, and what you conceal and what you reveal. Wallahu alimun bidhat sudur. And Allah is all knowing of that which is harbored within the chests of the people. أَلَمْ يَأْتِكُمْ نَبَأُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ قَبْلِ. Has there not come to you the... So the translator here uses brackets and he translates that, has there not come to you the heavy tidings of those who disbelieved of old? Uh, so naba means the news of the people of the past. Has the news of the people of the past not reached you? Has the stories of the people of the past not reached you? فَذَاقُوا وَبَالَ أَمْرِهِمْ. Specifically those who disbelieved. That those who disbelieved, فَذَاقُوا وَبَالَ أَمْرِهِمْ, they tasted in this life the grievous consequence. وَبَالَ أَمْرِهِمْ. Right? Wabal is a punishment. Right? So the punishment of their affairs, of what they did, of how they were, if they didn't pay attention, if they didn't believe, if they didn't pay heed to the signs of Allah Azza wa Jal, فَذَاقُوا وَبَالَ أَمْرِهِمْ وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. So Allah Azza wa Jal wants us to pay heed to the stories of the people of the past, specifically those in this ayah, those who disbelieved and tasted and will taste the consequences of their actions. Now, in this, Allah Azza wa Jal specifically wants to bring to our attention, not, to waste our time in if you think about how does Allah Azza wa Jal, the creator of mankind, tell us the history of mankind. Right? Allah Azza wa Jal wants us to look at the history of mankind with a lens. Right? As the ulama, they didn't waste their time in the minute details of things which were of no benefit. Rather, they spent their time in the details of things which had an effect on the heart. We're supposed to focus on the stories of the people of the past to bring some sort of awakening to our heart, some sort of basira, insight to our heart. Right? So Allah Azza wa Jal wants you to contemplate the people of disbelief in the past. Now, other people also look at the people of the past. Right? How much funding goes into studying the rocks of the pyramids of Giza and this and that, right? But it's a waste of time. Our ulama of Islam lived in those lands for so long, and they never even visited those places, because what are you going to do inside there? There's dead bodies in there, right? Even something which is beneficial, perhaps they didn't waste their time. Oh, subhanallah, that look, Allah Azza wa Jal shows us signs of people who Allah Azza wa Jal gave engineering in the past and gave some sort of creativity, and they left their marks. They themselves, we don't know who they are. We only remember who believed. We only remember who believed. Allah Azza wa Jal names the prophets for us, names their followers. The followers of such people are known to us. But people of disbelief, no matter what signs they left behind, they were forgotten. Right? One of the ulama was mentioning, a person dies twice. The first time is the subtle death, when their body dies. The second time they die is when there's no one else who knows them anymore. The last person who knows them dies. Now no one will even mention them, unless they've left something to be remembered by, right? So Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't want us to think about the people of the past and their akhbar, their history, except for an actual beneficial purpose, which is, look what happened when they didn't pay attention to the guidance. What is that? Allah says, ذَلِكَ, that is because بِأَنَّهُ كَانَتْ تَأْتِيهِمْ رُسُلُهُمْ بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ, that it is because their messengers indeed came to them with the clear and miraculous proofs from their Lord. But the people of disbelief, they said in response, فَقَالُوا أَبَشَرٌ يَهْدُونَنَا, will mere mortals guide us? Will mere people, human beings just like us, they'll guide us? فَكَفَرُوا وَتَوَلَّوْا, so they disbelieved and turned away. وَاسْتَغْنَى اللَّهُ, yet Allah is self-sufficient. Allah is Ghani, He doesn't need them, right? So this arrogance, right? Allah Azza wa Jal wants us to think about in the last ayah that you do not know everything, Allah knows everything, and when Allah Azza wa Jal sends a messenger to you, someone with the knowledge, then accept that knowledge from him and be humble to that. Be humble to that fact. And do not be like the people of the past, that the messengers came to them and they were not humble, they were arrogant, right? And this is exactly what happens, right? And this is the same reason if a person chooses to disbelieve today, it's not because the technology is greater, it's not because of any other reason, right? Allah Azza wa Jalla doesn't want us to look at the people of the past and the people of today to be any different, meaning from Adam alayhi salatu wasalam to the last of people, they're Adami, they're human beings, right? Everything goes back to something, the heart, right? It goes back to the heart. If there's takabbur in the heart, Allah Azza wa Jal will block the heart from obedience. Allah Azza wa Jal will block the heart from accepting the guidance. I was mentioning with one of the ulama the other day when we were discussing some scientific papers, and I mentioned to them, we were talking, uh, you know, science, and we benefit from, of course, from a lot of it. My point of saying this when ulama talk about these things is not that we hate science or something, but science, in my little studies of the scientific method, etc., is very much, I would say, obsessed with trying to remove biases. If you look into the scientific method, whatever, everything must be placed in a way that there's no bias in the study. So in one of the studies, when we were looking at it, and it was very strange, I mentioned to them, they're trying to remove every bias, but they've been unable to remove one bias, which is the bias of hawa, your desire. And if you cannot remove the bias of your desire, then you can have all the science you want. The funding will come to fund exactly what you want to fund. Because the funding's there, the opinion will be exactly how you want it to be. And you'll make it provable in whatever terms you want to make it. Right? So when there's something blocking a person, takabbur, a person's ego, right? Whether it's the first of people or the last and most technological people, the heart is the heart. The heart doesn't change. Heart is the same. Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't tell us other things. He said, Allah Azza wa Jal says they were arrogant. That's the reason. Mistakes happen because of arrogance. Mistakes happen because people don't follow akhlaq. So it's the heart. فَكَفَرُوا وَتَوَلَّوْا. They disbelieved and they turned away in arrogance. وَاسْتَغْنَى اللَّهُ. And Allah is most sufficient. وَاللَّهُ غَنِيٌّ حَمِيدٌ. And Allah is all ghani. He is ever independent, self-sufficient, and Hamid, praiseworthy. Now when Allah Azza wa Jal's names come at the end of an ayah, then Allah Azza wa Jal wants us to benefit from them as well. There must be some sort of ihsan to it as well, right? So, when you rely on the knowledge of Allah, Allah will give you knowledge that others cannot see. Right? That's the connection to the ayah before. Allah is all-knowing of what's in the chests of the people. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that fear the ittaqu farasat al-mu'min, fear the insight of the believer. Right? A mu'min can see what other people cannot see because they have access to the knowledge of Allah. Likewise in this ayah, right, when you will accept the messenger, humble yourself to the message that Allah Azza wa Jal sends you, Allah will give you self-sufficiency. You will not depend on the people. And Allah Azza wa Jal is Hamid, all praised. Why? Because everything He does is praiseworthy. Everything He does is praiseworthy. If you accept His hidayah, you will become people who everything you do is praiseworthy. It's deserving to be praised as well. Right? So you will also, gain from the guidance of Allah Azza wa Jal, and that your akhlaq will be beautiful. Right? Rasulullah's akhlaq was beautiful, so he's praised. Right? And perhaps the last ayah, we'll read this last ayah and conclude. زَعَمَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَن لَّن يُبْعَثُوا. This also connects with the same passage now, which Allah Azza wa Jal is trying to tell us that these people are in loss. So Allah Azza wa Jal uses the word za'ama. Right? Za'ama means it's It's when a person claims, and you know that claim could be based on just a mere feeling that they have, right? No reality, right? So no foundational knowledge behind this, but it's just a claim, you know. So za'ama is generally used in the Arabic language as a in a negative connotation. So when you want to say someone claimed something, but you want to give a negative connotation that they don't know what they're talking about. There's a poem, for example, what's known to be, uh, there's different verses in poetry that are known to be, for example, in the Arabic language, that this is, the most honorable poem, or the most, expressive poem in generosity. And then there was a poem which was said, which was considered to be ahja ma fil adabi, which is no one has insulted a person more beautifully in poetry. So the poet, he says, زعم الفرزدق أن سيقتل مربعا أبشر بطول سلامة يا مربع. He says that Farazdaq, these were, it's a beautiful history in Islam, but these were two poets, and they used to compete with each other, a few poets. So one of the poet, he says regarding the other poet, that he claims za'ama, the same word. I'm mentioning this because the same word usage is being here. That Farazdaq has claimed, false claim, like it's of no value, has claimed that he will kill Mirba. So then he says, "Oh Mirba, uh, let me give you the glad tidings of complete health in your entire life," meaning he will never get to you. Right? So this word za'ama is used there, that false claim, which has no foundation. So Allah Azza wa Jalla says, za'ama alladhina kafaru, that those who disbelieve have claimed that allan yub'athu, that they shall never be raised from the dead, they will never be resurrected. So Allah Azza wa Jalla says, qul, that O Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, say, bala, indeed, yes indeed, wa rabbi, by my Lord, latub'athunna, you will be surely be resurrected. You will surely, with emphasis, you will surely be resurrected. ثُمَّ لَتُنَبَّؤُنَّ, then you will most surely be informed, بِمَا عَمِلْتُمْ, of all that you have done in the world. وَذَلِكَ عَلَى اللَّهِ يَسِيرٌ, and that for Allah is ever so easy. That for Allah is ever so easy. As other ayat mention, Allah Azza wa Jal, when He created us from nothing, that was easy. So recreating us a second time is even easier. Right? So this ayat now is bringing our attention towards the hereafter, and that people of Iman are people of foresight who will not be in loss. Right? Because people of Iman, they're people who prepare for the hereafter. Right? So this all has to gain and loss. The people of disbelief do not see the hereafter, so they don't prepare for the hereafter. When they will be resurrected, they will be resurrected in shock, and they will have no preparation for this day, and then they will beg that send us back. And people of Iman, people of Amal, Rasulullah ﷺ said that Al-Kayyis, who is an intelligent person, right? When we describe the intelligent people today, you know, we think about people who save money. We think about people who don't spend recklessly. We think about people who persevere in education, long-term education. Why? For their future, right? So a mu'min is supposed to even have more further sight, not just college, not just a job and family, but preparation for the hereafter as well. The day when no one will be able to do anything to benefit themselves, they'll prepare for that day. So far sight. Right? Allah's Rasulullah says, Al-Kayyisu, the intelligent person is Mandana nafsahu, the one who takes account of himself, criticizes himself. وَعَمِلَ لِمَا بَعْدَ الْمَوْتِ, and he does amal for what is after death. Right? So this has all to do with this idea of loss and gain. People of Iman are people who prepare for the hereafter, so they will be people of gain. May Allah make us from them. And people of disbelief are people of loss, and they will see the consequences of their loss in the hereafter. We'll stop at this point of the passage, inshallah, and continue in the next week. May Allah Azza wa Jalla grant us understanding of these ayat, and may He forgive us for any mistakes or shortcomings in our attempt to understand His perfect word. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. صدق الله العظيم. سبحان الله وبحمده. سبحان الله نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك. There's breakfast in the hall for everyone. Everyone is welcome to join us, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.